Hello, listeners. Welcome to season 2 of the Masters Decoded podcast. I am Manish Merchant, the chief decoder. I want to thank you for the overwhelming response to season 1. Your feedback and encouragement led me to bring you season 2 of the Masters Decoded. The season will tap into how technology, artificial intelligence, and other socio-economic factors have impacted my guests' careers or passions. My next guest on today's episode is Yogesh Kabra. Yogesh is currently the founder of XYXX Brands, a premium innerwear brand for men in India. He completed his MBA from Hult International School of Business, and the innate urge to solve the problem within India got him back to start the XYXX brand. He has some fascinating perspectives on his journey on entrepreneurship. So let me get on with it without much further ado. Hi, Yogesh. Welcome to Masters Decoded podcast series. Really glad to have you on the show today.
Yeah, Anish, thanks for having me. I'll sort of start quickly that I think I'm the opposite of what your show says, right? Which is Masters Decoded. And you were telling me about the prolific speakers you've had. I think I'm, I'm the opposite of that. Opposite of master would be learner. Would be a student. I'm a misfit, but happy to be here.
No, you say it interestingly. My show has had all the right misfits in their life. And candidly, the idea of the show has been to get individuals who people see them as masters, but we all are learners, right, in real life. And that's what the idea of the show has been, to take learnings from each one of you and share that with everyone. And talking about learning, you at very young age have started an apparel brand company, which is called the XYXX Apparels, which focuses on innerwear, loungewear for men specifically. And when I look at, by the way, I buy a lot of products. I used to buy a lot of products before the pandemic from the international setup, mainly because the quality of the apparels, the finish, the kind of clothes you would get outside, you would typically were hard to find in India. But I've seen a big rage happening in the last 2 years specifically, and I've stopped buying from international, and I buy a lot of products now from India. But just talking about the apparel industry, it's overcrowded, oversaturated. And you've come in and you said, I want to do this. What got you to start all of this?
Yeah, I've had the most cliched. Just to start, right, for everyone who's listening, I'm the definition of average, right?
Okay.
I'm the definition of how average person lives his life, whether it's how average household is, how average education is. So it's been quite an average journey, and I never thought that I'd be doing men's innerwear or I'll be making apparel.
Mm-hmm.
What really was very clear to me is I'm going to solve some problem, right? And in my early days, I thought I'm going to solve a social problem. I was always passionate. I'm still extremely passionate about teaching. I'm still passionate about, teaching to the bottom of the pyramid. That's what I wanted to do. I sit on a trust working committee, sort of manage set up a school for underprivileged.
Nice.
2,000 students in 2 years. That's what sort of I thought I'd be doing. Before that, my dad's a first generation entrepreneur. I think dad's mom's family is a very big influence, and I've been lucky that I've had the right set of role models from both my mom and dad. Very different people. Very different people to pick, qualities from. And I think I've had very good role models. So with the problem mindset, my dad started his own company, and, like all founders, work always came back home. So, while we are having dinner, we're sort of eating breakfast, it'll be all about textile, the innovation in the industry. And as a first principle thinker, I always sort of questioned in, think about textile in a slightly different way. Think about cotton,
Yep.
right? It's like mango. Why do you get the best Afus arm from a certain area of the country where there are so many mangroves in Bombay,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's because the soil's perfect. It's because the temperature's perfect. And that's why you get a very good product. Textile is pretty much like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, good cotton is a mixture of the right temperature, the right soil, the right treatment. And I've always been very curious about that. So I mean, went to the US, came back, and saw India. I mean, again, something that you as a consumer was stating as a problem. I said, I was also having the same problem. And I said that, hey, I'm pretty average. And if I have this problem, I'm sure there are a lot of people who are as average as I am. And obviously, that was an assumption. And I said, if I'm having this problem, there'll be a lot of people with a similar problem. Can I solve this problem? And that stayed. I didn't act on it. It was just something that, when I went out to buy undies, I saw largely one brand and everything's very similar to that one brand. Everyone's literally copying the category leader. No innovation for the last 20-25 years. And coming from a textile background, it's something stay, right? You keep wondering about certain things. And then when I was entering the workforce, I had very close eye on some innovation in the industry. One was of a plant-based fiber, and bigger, broader innovations, right? Like eradicating plastic, bioplastics, plant-based food. They take a lot of time to come mainstream. It's a lot of supply chain, broad capital expenditure. Mainstream anime, this sort of takes time. So that was too early when I started. This was just getting started,
Yep.
and I said, I don't know if you've seen the movie Padman.
Yep.
You know, he puts a sheet in the mixie, and the mixie sort of rolls, and then there's a lot of fiber that comes up. So we use that fiber. Typically used in sanitary pads, obviously makes sense. The quality of those fibers were, it was softer, absorbs moisture better, it's antibacterial. So first choices when the fiber is super expensive, you go to very hardcore use cases like sanitary pads, like baby
Yep.
diapers, because it's extremely important to have those properties. I said that, hey, why can't we do that in innerwear? No one was doing it in India. There was someone in the US. I called the products. I said that, hey, let me use it because India is a different weather, different washing style,
Yep.
a different use case. And yeah, I tried those products. I loved it. And I said, boss, Indian men need this. And yeah, I mean, also that there was more from a, fabric innovation. That's what I was extremely passionate about. Larger, I mean, look at the brand here. I mean, the new guys would not connect to those brands, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you show your underwear and then there are three girls that would sort of suddenly appear from somewhere. Uh, and that's not just for us,
Yep.
right? India, super patriarchal. I mean, how we were 20 years back to how we are now,
Yep.
and then brands sort of resonate the broad culture, right? Some brands are able to sort of evolve with cultures, some are not. But it's a large reflection of what's going on in the country,
Yep.
and we are not as masculine as we were in anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I can guarantee we will not be moving forward. And there was a definite need for a better product, for a better brand. And then I couldn't sleep, right? Because I had a problem when I went to buy underwear.
Mm-hmm.
I had a solution. And then I just started to sleep less. And I used to turn at 3, 4. I still do. I mean, I'm a very bad sleeper, right? If there's something going on in my head, it'll go during my sleep, and then I'll get up. a couple of times. That started happening, and that's almost a sign of I need to do something. Uh, yeah, I mean that was the trigger,
Okay.
and I said, yeah, let's jump in for 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 all founders. I think go through this, right? And the only, unfortunately, the only successful founders make it to the podcast, right? But a lot of people try,
Yeah.
uh, and everyone goes through this. More for people who didn't sort of cross the line. Uh, I'm just lucky that it all worked out. But yeah, I mean, just jumped right into it without knowing the complexity. If I had known all of that, I probably wouldn't have jumped. But yeah,
You know, talking about this entire journey, what were some of the initial hurdles you had to cross through? Because, like you said, that there were already established categories, there were already established mindsets about innerwear in India, specifically among the men. And unfortunately, we often say that men are privileged, but specifically when it comes to innerwear, a little bit of research I've done, before many of the new brands like yours have come into the market, there's never been so much of innovation, whether it is from style, fabric, all of those, right? You would find those atypical innerwears, which you would see on the shelf,
yeah,
boring,
yeah,
and don't want to get into those aspects, but men knew what the problems were, right, with those innerwear. They were completely uncomfortable,
yeah.
and it was gross to wear after a long time. So,
Yeah.
what were those initial hurdles? Because it was not just about the manufacturing, but it's also about knowledge.
It's never about the manufacturing.
Yes.
It's never about the manufacturing because Indians champion reverse engineering,
Yeah.
right? So manufacturing essentially, to a very large extent, is reverse engineering. We would reverse engineer anything and at a cheaper cost.
Yeah.
So uh, if you're sitting in this part of the world, manufacturing is almost never a challenge for you. The bigger challenge is, I mean, I'd ask you also. You started up 18 months back. You were telling me. Uh, I think both of us would have to had a very similar pushback that, कौन सुनता है podcast? I mean, who is listening
Yeah.
to podcast? I mean, how big would the audience be, right? Probably you would have, 100 people who are very early adopters of Spotify listening to this. And that's similar, right? Why is anyone going to buy anything but the category leader? Why should a distributor keep your stuff? I mean, would it even work?
Yeah.
Uh, Very common sort of questions that you and I would. I'm assuming you
Yeah.
can say yes or no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what really kept me going was that I had faced that problem, and I believe that there are more people like me. And even though a lot of people said, stupid. And my dad has a very successful business, so I was expected to do that. So the opportunity cost for me was much higher because I'm losing on a very set sort of way of doing things, a steady income,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I had to say that no, I'm going to do something else. So a lot of people said it's a waste of time. Some stuff that really close well wishers told me was really heartbreaking. Like, you can't try, you won't be able to do this, you're doing a big mistake. Some would say directly, but the indirect ones are the more painful.
Yeah.
some some of them just give you that vibe, right? कि तुझसे कुछ होने नहीं वाला है, why are you even trying? But they won't say that,
Yeah.
right? I've had all of them. I think. So one thing I tell every founder, right? Don't ask me, don't validate your idea because I might be that uncle,
Mm-hmm.
that was for me to you because I don't see the problem like you see.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the merit of why people will listen to podcast. I mean, if you know why you're doing this, no one else can sort of see, or there are a lot of people saying, go for it. I mean, if it were that obvious, तो फिर बात क्या होती? I mean, it would have been a very different world.
Yep. Interesting. Now, building on what you've just said, and there are a few things which you mentioned during the initial part, is you traveling to US and for studies, for sure. Uh, what prompted you to go to US to study and get your master's there?
I didn't get, so I attempted CAT twice.
Okay.
Uh, I got about 95, 97 percentile. I didn't get into any business school. So, well, by the way, so I come from a smaller city, right? We had very humble upbringing. I mean, having said that, it was never that we had anything less, but the exposure to a world class education was missing. I didn't know what a Harvard was. I mean, or I can even go to a Harvard till about I graduated, right? So I didn't know what's the world looking like. I just knew, I am Ahmedabad. There are IIMs in the country, and that was the goal. So I said, "Okay, let's try, and that's the best for us that the life has." Attempted 2 attempts, didn't get into, got into some of the newer IIMs, and I said, "Boss, I mean, that doesn't make sense. I just work." In the meanwhile, I just gave the GMAT and I said, let me see. I have a cousin, very successful in the valley. They said, just come to the US. I mean, just come and see how the US is. So it was very random. I applied and I got into, and I said, hey, my decision making was very different, right? I wanted to pick city. I said, hey, I'm going to learn. I would not go to a university town. University towns in the US are typically just the student in the campus. I said, I'm going to go to a bigger city and just sort of understand how US is, etc. So I went to Boston, did my MBA. And just opened, when I was there, Uber was just launching. Yeah. So we've come a long way. Yep. That's the story. And I mean, my coming back, however, was more interesting because I had a very good job. I loved what I was doing. I was still sort of working in the startup ecosystem in Boston. And then one day I realized that, at core I knew India, I would be able to build something if I'm able to solve a problem. And I couldn't really solve an American problem because I was not born and brought up there. Yep. I wouldn't, it would take me time to solve anything in the US because I'm literally not aware of the culture, what problem, how is growing up for them. I won't be able to solve a problem. And I said, I understand India, right? And I believe in India. So let me go to a place where I actually understand things. Because one thing was, I mean, like I said, it was fundamentally clear that, my dad set up very well for me is that you need to solve something to, desire for something that is more than average. And you need to sort of do that work pretty aggressively. So yeah, I mean, and then one day I just finally, I got up and I said that, 24, 25, getting paid well, single. If I don't go back to India now, I probably won't go back because the life's good. Yeah. No responsibilities, good money. And America is the most developed country in the world. So quality of life is very good. Work culture is very good, right? It's not like India. I mean, work culture is extremely powerful there. But then I said, hey, I think Indians love chaos, and I'm one of the typical in Indian born and brought up guy. I said, this is not what I think I'd be able to solve. I'd go back to India without a plan, of course.
Interesting. So you land back in India with the energy to solve a particular problem. You could have picked any category in the world.
I thought it was education.
Yeah.
And I mean, having said that, it's still very close to me, and probably at some point I'd love to add more there. I thought I saw that very passionate, still very passionate. Uh, but yeah, I mean, this just happened. I mean, I have no intention. I mean, apart from I grew up and my work experience was in textiles. But I'm not running a textile
Yes.
business. I'm running a consumer business. I'm running a consumer brand. Very different from textile. That's manufacturing. This is consumer. So I never knew I'd be doing this. But yeah, I mean, the problem solving mentality can get you to crazy places.
You mentioned about the problem solving ability, and that's one of the innate skills or an attribute which an entrepreneur should have. And you also mentioned your dad is a first generation entrepreneur. Was being an entrepreneur always a plan, or getting a corporate job? Because your dad, I'm sure, as he's been through his own journey.
I Yeah, that was always the plan. I mean, not so. It's funny that it's not the plan, but I couldn't do anything. I mean, I couldn't visualize myself, and that was a very strong is a very strong role model.
Mhm.
I I always knew that I'm going to end up doing something on my own. There were some. I also understood that before doing that, there needs to be a good building block. You need to expose yourself to good bosses. You need to expose yourself to good cultures, and there's a lot of learning. And also, I didn't force myself. I mean, to be very honest, I didn't say that, hey, I'm made for this. I'm just gonna. It just happened. I knew that I'd do something on my own. I thought I'd do something for not for profit, honestly. Uh, but yeah,
I'm reading a book called The Unfair Advantage, and it's an amazing book. Okay. It talks all about entrepreneurship. It talks all about how individuals have the unfair advantage, which we often oversight, and don't think about it. But we all have those unfair advantages. And it has really sparked my thinking and start looking at people very differently and start showing them the light that you have those unfair advantages. Like I was talking about the entrepreneurs I was meeting last night, they were the best oncologist in India, right? And that's their unfair advantage. Nobody has that. What they do, I can't do, and nobody can do, right? That's their unfair advantage. So the reason why I'm saying that, somewhere unknowingly, you had that unfair advantage. And I'll share that. And don't take that in a wrong way, but
no,
so
absolutely.
you had your dad who was in the business as an entrepreneur. Your dad was in textiles. You had a community spread around textiles. Somewhere at the back of that mind, at
But I'll tell you, biggest unfair advantage I've had, right,
Mhm.
is my family has given me the liberty to do whatever I want to do and fail.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my disproportionately large unfair advantage, that I don't have to worry about how am I going to pay the bills. I don't have to worry about really fundamental stuff. I know my dad's always going to be there, and it doesn't matter if I do well, if I don't do well. Uh, 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 and you know what that does? It just sort of makes you like this crazy person who goes to the world with an idea that I'm going to do this, I can do this, I can do this. Because what's going to happen? I'm going to fail, but doesn't change a thing for me. And then that's that's a big unfair advantage. And you know what I try to do? I with my teams, right?
Mhm.
I try to pass this unfair advantage now to them, and all the young guys in my team. I just tell them that think about this is try to replicate what my dad sort of gave me, and give them the liberty to fail, because when they know that I can do anything. They literally do anything. I mean, it's that confidence that my upbringing, my family
Mm-hmm.
had given me. I mean, forget textile, forget all of those things. It's just my ability to fail and think about failure in a very positive way, which I see a lot of people. And like yourself, I try to sort of meet a lot of founders. I have a lot. I mean, we have
Yeah.
a big organization now, and I see a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
Wherever I can, I try to supplement that. That's my big unfair advantage, big one.
Thank you for candid thoughts on that and perspectives. Just building on to this, and there's something which has sparked my mind right now. You're building a category, and you're talking about your team and how you're coaching them and you're building them. And how do you hire people, and what's the gender diversity? Because that's the other question in my mind. Because it's a category for men, right? And I do see, I've looked up LinkedIn for your organization, and you do have a balance, right, of both men and women, right? How do you ensure that people don't look at this just as a men wear or a men products only, and look at it as a consumer brand, like
I
you
mean,
said?
to be fair, right? The smart people don't think about it like that,
Yeah.
anyways, right? In fact, it's the opposite. I've had cases where, and I mean, not to sort of generalize, but a tier three guy coming to join us, very well educated, right? All of that, but still had he was not absolutely comfortable to tell mom and dad, because they're gonna look for a bride,
Right.
and it's gonna be an arranged marriage. And what will they tell, that he's working for a
Yeah.
underwear company? I've had one experience like that, and that was from a guy, not from a girl.
Wow.
But largely, I don't think people. I mean, at least the smart folks. All my direct reports are much smarter than I am. That's one thing that I have an honest submission, and I don't say that. There are people who say that to look humble. That it's team, etc. But I genuinely think they're smarter than me, because I was, like I said, we started with the assumption that I'm average, right? And these guys are not
Mm-hmm.
average. They're really smart people who are working hard, who make their life's mission when they say that I'm going to solve for this. Uh, and when we meet, right, they see that there is a purpose behind what we're doing, and everyone's really marrying that purpose, right? And it's not innerwear or a consumer brand. They see that founders on a purpose, and he'd be a good mentor, and probably this is the right organization for us to grow as people, and that's why they would join. I hope that's why they joined. Yeah, I mean, for the for my direct reportees, at least I make very clear. I mean, so someone recently asked me that how many are from IIT IIM. I don't remember, except my co-founder. I don't remember how many are from IIT IIM. Uh, uh, I had to think really hard, and I would still like to believe that I have a very good organization, because everyone has the discipline in common. I look for, even if you've played cricket, but you've played it in a disciplined way for most of your life, it works for me. I mean, I'd hire that. If you've sort of played a musical, played an instrument, anything that you've been passionate and you've sort of done with a strong discipline, that's the only criteria I have while I hire. I mean, obviously, we do ref checks and integrity, etc. All of those things should be fine. But if you've showed discipline in anything in life, right, I'd hire.
Very interesting. That's an interesting trait for people to build teams. Also, is discipline about stuff. No, interesting. Just switching gears. You, I'm sure uh, your dad is a big role model, like you've mentioned, and you look up to him and you look at his journey, and he always has your back. But are there any other professional mentors in life whom you look up to, whom you dial up and saying, "Hey, I have this thoughts"?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was listening to one of your earlier podcast, and I'm forgetting the there was a female guest. I'm forgetting her name. Sorry,
No,
but
that's okay.
she said she said something that I absolutely smiled when she was saying. She's like, I'm shameless in asking for help. And women in India specifically have so many taboos. Should I ask? Should I not ask? Etc. But there's this girl who says that I've always asked and it's always worked out. It's exactly the same with me. And those taboos are there for men as well, but those are more mental
Yep.
taboos that don't come from a high quality educational background. Should I ask for help from someone who's really the star in town? I've always believed that attempt le lete hain. Let's just try. If it works out, it works out. Doesn't work out, doesn't work out. And I've been like this for when I was in the US. I got my job like this because I just sort of took a shot. And the beauty is once you know it works out,
Yeah.
then you sort of do it at a very aggressive rate, right? Because ek bar kiya, pata chal gaya that this is going to sort of it's not as
Yep.
bad, right? And the first one is slightly more mentally challenging, but I've been very shameless. I have the best set of mentors to the business, and personally, right? I mean, I never thought mentors sort of have come to me where I've never thought I'd get. My investor. I mean, Manu
Mm-hmm.
Chandra runs Sauce.vc venture capital. Very, I mean, his role in my career has been pivotal. Very strong mentor, a very different personality than me. Probably opposites in some ways. But a very strong sort of role model, very strong advisor. Started with business stuff. Now I ask life stuff. That's how it grows. Govind Srikhande, I mean Govindji, managing director, Shoppers
Yep.
Stop. I mean when I sort of met Govindji, I thought I was 27, 28. I thought, I mean, how am I even getting to meet him, right? I had nothing except a product that I had to show him. When you meet him, you are like, "Boss, I mean, doesn't look like doesn't look like someone who's not approachable.
Yep.
I mean, so humble, very high integrity. I mean, I've had very good mentors. Rohan, who runs Epigamia, is a Greek yogurt
Yep.
startup. Again, a very, very, I mean, someone I look up to, someone I listen to. I think, and then I obviously have dad and my mom. So yeah, I mean, surrounded by great mentors. But like any married guy would tell you, wife's the mentor.
I would say that on that.
I mean, that's one decision that you don't want to get wrong.
For sure. For sure. No, Yogesh, this has been interesting. But just on, a closing thought from your side, I'm sure a lot of listeners on the show who are either thinking about starting their own venture or looking to do something in life, what will be your advice to them?
So I have two sets of advice. One, it's good to be crazy, but be good crazy. I don't be slightly more realist. Be very careful of what you're getting into. Nothing in life, nothing. I mean, that is sustainable over a long time would come easy. Uh, no journeys are easy. Some are mentally tough, some are physically tough, some are both, right? So if you're starting up, you marry yourself to that lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
of low income, high purpose, and then the only thing you have to do is just do it. But don't be, I mean, what you read in the media, right? So much raising, so much capital, so much becoming so many unicorns, etc. None of those are most likely going to happen to you, right?
Yeah.
What are the odds, right? So then, how do you complete the marathon, right? You complete the marathon because you had decided the purpose was right. I was not doing it to beat someone, be someone, but the purpose was very clear that I had set a goal for myself that I'm going to run 42 and I'm going to do it for myself and I'm going to run 42. I run at a 8 kilometer per hour, but I'm just going to do that because that's what I committed to myself.
Yep.
I mean, till the time, all these basic things are, I mean, you are not too fancied by venture capital or anything that looks blingy from the outside, because what you're doing is you're asking people for money, and people don't give money for fun,
Yeah.
right? It's someone's hard-earned money that you're going to get. It's a responsibility. And a lot of younger folks, right, who are just graduating, are extremely passionate about startups, don't understand that it's someone else's money, and you need to be absolutely responsible for that. And until the time you have the moral compass right, I think it will work out. Not if not the first attempt, you learn second, third, fourth. It would work out. I mean, if it can work out for an average person like me, it would most likely, you are in the better sort of probability zone. It will work out. It will work out for you. Uh, just need to do the right things fundamentally, which is easier said than done. I mean, you'd agree to that.
Now, Yogesh, this conversation has been really enriching for me as well. I've learned a lot. And thank you for taking time out. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I can tell you that
Thanks for having me.
you started off saying that you're not a master. Definitely, you are a master of your own trade. I can say that much. So keep up.
I thank you for having me, and good luck. I hope to listen more crazy podcast on my metro journey back to work.
Sure, for sure. That will keep me motivated to keep going. Thank you. Thank you for taking
Yeah.
time out.
Thank you, Manish. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening in. And we close yet another episode of Masters Decoded. If you've enjoyed the episode, please, you can help us out by sharing it on social media. I would personally appreciate that. It's how we can reach more listeners, and the more listeners we have, the more awesome guests I can get in touch and convince to participate in these conversations that are a joy to have for me, and I hope they are a joy for you to listen as well. You can also help a lot leaving reviews on iTunes or your podcast service of choice. Reviews are surprisingly helpful in supporting the podcast to get to more listeners. If this episode has intrigued you, I would request you to subscribe to the podcast to stay up to date and get notified to the future episodes. With that, I bid you and see you in the next episode.